Norway is having a very wet summer. Brede Jobraten has to scoop out the water from his boat before we can begin our journey over to Otöya Island, the place where Anders Breivik murdered 69 people a year ago. How long does it take to get over there?
Just a few minutes.
Jobraten runs a campsite on the mainland opposite the island. A year ago, on July 22nd, he was watching the news when he heard a bomb had exploded in Oslo. Suddenly, he heard shots coming from the island.
We thought it was some firework or some fun in the beginning, because when they have this camp, there is always a lot of noise from events they make. But after a while, one of our guests come and say that it was shooting against the people out there, and they were swimming away from the island.
Utoya Island 1 year on. It took 3 months to gather evidence and clean up after the massacre. Not many people have come here since then. Most people who visit are journalists like me. Before the attack, the Labour Party's youth wing had held a summer camp here every year for decades. Outside the main building, you can still see the program from last year. Immediately after the massacre, Norway's Prime Minister Jens Stoltenberg said the attack would bring more democracy and openness to the country. I think that was optimistic.
They who survived will maybe not come back for a camp, but after some years I think it will be back in business.
I wonder where this optimism comes from after the horrors of the murders. Jobraten brings me back to the mainland, and I continue my journey in search of answers. Nærsnes, 60 kilometers away from Utoya. These youngsters are also attending a summer camp. It's run by Rebecca Junge, and singing and dancing is the order of the day.
And I want the youth, the kids who are here, to have a sense of feeling that politics is fun. And because politics is everything.
The camp has been organized by Press, a youth association that advocates children's rights. 60 youngsters from all over Norway are taking part. They permit me to film how the young participants are learning about politics. But I'm not allowed to ask questions about Utoya for fear of upsetting them. The youngsters are learning about children's rights through lectures and discussions.
If you have knowledge about something, you can make up your opinion. What do I think about this? Am I for it? Am I against it? If I'm against it, I want to do something about it. And all of a sudden, you're part in a democratic society where you want to change something that you think the government is doing wrong.
Summer camps are part of Norwegian culture. Almost all the country's political youth organizations hold them, usually in a rural outdoor setting. They generally involve a week packed with learning and fun. The Oslo chapter of the Labour Party's youth wing cancelled its annual summer camp this year. The memories of the massacre were too fresh. Munir Jehab and Vegard Vinnesland were on the island that day. Vegard and several of his friends survived by hiding under the beds in one of the huts, while many of their friends were shot dead outside.
In a month after, we had to choose which friend's funeral to go to, because it was impossible to go to all of them.
and that is something that one doesn't have to do. A normal person wouldn't have to make that choice on which funeral to attend, because normally you have the time and room to do that.
Today, Vegard and Munir lead the Youth Wing's Oslo chapter. After the massacre, the pair immersed themselves in political work in a bid to put the nightmare behind them.
Well, I'm happy whenever I can speak strictly about politics, but politics has been very connected to the 22nd of July for us. That's natural, I think, because we were the targets of this political assassination, so of course we have to deal with this in our work. But most of the time we spend on the organization, we spend on how can we get more members, how can we get more influence.
Anders Breivik declared war on their ideals. That strengthened their resolve to stand for an open, multicultural Norway. At the summer camp in Nærsnes, it's been raining for 2 days. But the organizers say that's no reason to cancel the football match on today's schedule.
This is how we planned it. Yes, exactly. We ordered this weather.
Goals are not the only things that count in this match. Players can also win points for creativity. Each team has made its own costumes.
We're asylum children. We're refugees.
And what's your strategy?
Well, we're gonna hate them with this and stuff like that.
As the referee, it's Rebecca's job to make sure the rules are respected. The teams pull out all the stops to impress her. There's an extra point for shielding the referee from the rain. But what does playing football have to do with learning about politics?
It has everything to do with summer camp, basically. It's important to have fun. And also it gives a sense of, community.
In the end, the asylum seekers team beats the financial industry team 3-1. Back in Oslo, young politician Vegard is also passing on his political ideals to his younger colleagues. Fauci is just 13, but he's been interested in politics for a long time. He joined the Labour Party's youth wing immediately after Breivik's attacks. I'm the first person to have interviewed him. I ask him what motivated him to join.
To show solidarity to the terror victims after the attacks. And I was 100% sure to be a member after the attacks, because much more youth was joining the party.
Fauci is one of 4,000 new members who have joined the organization since the attacks, swelling its ranks by 40%. I asked Vegard how he explains this sudden surge in political commitment.
It's certainly become cooler. I don't know if it's cool yet, but what I really realize now is that we are getting a much broader segment of the youth population to join. Before it was kind of people who were already into politics, maybe they had some relatives or family who were already politicians or who knew the political scene well. But now it's, normal kids from high school who just decided to join a political party.
Fauci wants to give ethnic minorities a voice. His parents came to Norway as refugees after fleeing the conflict in Somalia. He was born in Oslo. I ask him what reforms would be at the top of his agenda.
Two things. Public transportation. I think that is very important, and it has to be much more better, and and cheaper. And of course education, because it's involving every youth in my age. And I think that it's very important that everybody gets the same opportunity.
Vegard has dubbed his younger party colleague the Norwegian Obama because of his looks and because Vegard suspects he may have a similar degree of political talent to the American president. It's still raining at the summer camp in Nærsnes. Inside, Rebecca has discarded her referee's jersey in favor of more academic pursuits. She's giving a talk on the International Arms Trade Treaty and its impact on children's rights. Next month, she's going to New York to advocate children's rights at the United Nations. Advocating democracy is something Rebecca cares about deeply. I ask her whether she thinks Norway has become more democratic since the attacks.
I don't know. I don't think we've become more democratic, but we've become more aware of what democracy means and how important it is. And I think that in one way makes it more democratic.
The massacre on Utoya Island shocked the world. 1 year on, I'm convinced the terrible events of that day have strengthened Norwegian society rather than weakened it. It's unclear whether the Labour Party's youth wing will ever hold a summer camp here again. Many of its members are in favour, others say it would be unthinkable. Whether it happens or not, Utoya Island will always be regarded as a place of remembrance.